Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Nana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachariya Yamunatira Vanachariya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Oh, glorious assembled devotees. Today I have a pleasure and privilege to read Srimad Bhagavatam, who knows more profound and amazing book than Srimad Bhagavatam? The name itself, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's beautiful. Srimati Kunti Devi, yeah? Srimati. Srimad means beautiful, full of amazing energies which are attractive. And Bhaga means opulences. Bhagavan means one who possesses opulences. So Bhagavatam is also the one who has all the same opulences as the Lord himself. So it's interesting. Okay, we are continuing reading from the third canto. Which currently continues with the story of Kardama Muni, his wife, and Kapila, the famous son. And we're coming to the closure of chapter, and interestingly enough, the subject is very, very close to my own life, so we'll see how it goes. So we offer obeisances to the writer and original personality. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So verse 41, chapter 24. Maitreya Vacha Evam Samuditastena Evam Samuditastena Kapilena Prajapati Kapilena Prajapati Dakshini Krityatam Prito Dakshini Krityatam Prito Vanam Eva Jagamaha Vanam Eva Jagamaha Maitreya Vacha Evam Samuditastena Kapilena Prajapati Dakshini Krityatam Prito Vanameva Jagamaha. Please. Chamuditastena Prajapati Ampritya Jagamaha. Maitreya Vacha Samudhitastena Yana Prajapati Dakshini Krityakam Pritya Madhis Maitreya Vacha Emat Samudhitasteva Kapilena Prajantai Dakshini kritya tam prito nam eva jagamaha Madhavacha Nam samudhitastena Vilena prajapati Vilena prajampito Madhavacha maha Maitreya Vacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Evam, thus, samudhita, addressed, tena, by him, kapilena, by Kapila, Prajapati, the progenitor of human society, Dakshini Kritya, having circumambulated. You know the word. Circumambulated. Going around. Circum is like circumambulated. Dakshini, sorry. Dakshini actually also means the right side. Also means you're going like that direction, not left side. So, going around in Sanskrit means going like a roundabout in the cars, that direction as the sun goes. Not opposite, like in Olympic Games, the people run opposite direction. They are against the health and against the sun. So actually they're killing themselves. So if you go properly right direction as the sun goes, its energies are flowing properly. Tam, him, prita, being pacified, vanam, to the forest, eva, indeed, jagama, he left, ha, then, afterwards. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Maitreya said, interesting. Prabhupada is also adding always his own nice touches. So Sanskrit says Maitreya Vacha, and translation says Sri Maitreya Vacha. The exalted Maitreya said. Thus, when Kardama Muni, the progenitor of human society, was spoken to in fullness by his son Kapila, he circumambulated him, and with good, pacified mind, he at once left for the forest. Purport. Going to forest is a compulsory for everyone. It is a mental excursion upon which one person goes and other does not. Everyone should go to the forest at least as vanaprastha. Forest going means to take 100% shelter of Supreme Lord, as explained by Prahlad Maharaj in his talks with his father. Sada samudvignadhiyam. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.5. People who have accepted a temporary material body are always full of anxieties, problems, mental stresses. One should not, therefore, be very much attracted by this material body, but should try to be freed. The preliminary process to become freed is to go to forest. It's true. Or give up family relationships and exclusively engage in Krishna consciousness. That is the purpose of going to the forest. Otherwise, the forest is only a place for monkeys and wild animals. To go to forest doesn't mean to become monkey or ferocious animal. It means to accept exclusively the shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage oneself in full service. One does not actually have to go to the forest. How we can understand that? The sentence before it is said, going to the forest is compulsory. It's necessary. It's no other choice. Then actually going to the forest is not advisable. So I lost the thing. Okay. At the present moment, this is not at all advisable for a man who has spent his life all along in big cities. As explained by Prahlad Maharaj, hitvam patam griha andhakupam. One should not remain always engaged in the responsibilities of family life, because family life without Krishna consciousness is like a blind well. Alone in a field, if one falls in a blind well, you know blind well? What it means? Blind well? Blind well, it means actually two things. First of all, blind because you cannot see it. It's not like well is blind. Blind well, it means the hole in the ground. Well means the place where there usually used to be water. But since nobody is using for a long time, it is grown over by the grass. So the blind well means the one which is hidden, cannot be seen. So if one goes to the blind well and falls, one is there to no one is there to save him. He may cry for years. That's very optimistic, you know. I think you stop crying after a month already. So Prabhupada's very determined, so very fired up. Somebody's crying for years. And no one will see. Well, that's because it's compared to family life. You can cry for years. No one will see or hear where the crying is coming from. Death is sure. Similarly, those who are forgetful of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord are in the blind well of family life. Why is blind well in family life? First of all, because you didn't see what's coming. It was covered by nice, beautiful grass, you know. In the beginning it was looking very good, but when you step it closer, you fall in and you cannot get out. At least for some time. The position is very ominous. Prahlad Maharaj advised that one should give up this well somehow or other and take Krishna consciousness and thus be freed from material entanglement, which is full of anxieties. Amagyanatimirandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaste Krishna Prabhupada Srimad Gopal Krishna Kasam Dinamne Prabhupada Saitana Prakasthirija Prajam Sadhu Prabhupada. Yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam especially and Prabhupada in particular is very strong on this point. In a little bit, actually next chapter, now we're 25 chapter is also very strong. It is a system of varnashrama dharma. Pancha shordvam vadam vrajet. One who has passed over 50 years of age, he must give. Leave a home and go to the forest and completely devote his life for spiritual realization. That is system of varna ashrama dharma. So what is varna ashrama dharma? That's basically, in few words, what is varna ashrama dharma? It's like asking someone, what is computer science in 2 words? You go to the bookshop and there's like 500 books in the computer science, every programming language and this and that and so on. And it's a short answer.
Social structure to elevate people to human platform and to Krishna consciousness.
Easy. It is social structure, and one of the main verses which we first come upon in studying Krishna consciousness is coming from Bhagavad Gita. Who can quote? Chatur Varnam Maya Shishtam Gunakarma Vibhagasaha. So, but this is starting only the first 4 out of 8, which Varna Ashrama, there's 2 divisions. And Varna, interesting enough, in Sanskrit there's quite a bit of translations of Varna. We know the verse from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam. Varna means color. Krishna Varnam, he was blackish in color. Tvisha Akrishnam, but he was not blackish. Krishna Varna. Varna means color. Also complexion. As also we know the caste system is a letter. Krishna Varnam also means that he was pronouncing, lettering Krishna's name all the time. Ashram means shelter, stage of life, spiritual aspect. So society, it is according to the Krishna's plan, division, the society is divided. And both, even non-spiritual, Hare Krishna, Shri Shri Prahlad Lakshmi Simhadev, is divided by Nrsimhadev. Yeah, of course, of him too. Into the different divisions, and as we come closer, we study those things much more in detail. But basically, it is social structure which divides the society, but also the spiritual structure, because social structure would be first part would be varnas, brahmacharis, grihasthas, vanaprasthas, sannyasis, and ashrams. Sorry, I was thinking about ashrams already. Yeah, Shudras, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas. Yeah, this was first. So this structure is basically according to your condition, according to the system of your previous experiences and activities, you are qualified, guna karma, by the quality and by activity. You are kind of fitting in one of those main categories. At the same time, whatever category you are, a time is passing, time is changing, and therefore during lifetime also you engage yourself in different levels of advancement, as Prabhu said, for the advancement bringing up actually to the human platform. It's interesting enough. The human life is starting with Varnashrama. Prabhupada said, if you are not following Varnashrama, you are an animal. Welcome to the company. So we are trying to become, first of all, human beings, and then as a human beings, we know there's a duty or ability to be Krishna conscious, which is not available for animals. So that's the thing. In a commentary, it is said to the verse of Bhagavad Gita. Oh no, this is the translation, sorry. According to three modes of material nature, the work and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society created by me, Krishna is telling. Although I am creator of this system, you should know I am non-doer, being unchangeable. So, of course, out of these 8 divisions we could talk a lot, but today's verse is more connected to going to the forest, vana, and as we see, vanaprastha as a translation of those words. Vana means forest and prastha means residing or going or directing towards. So Prabhupada says, one who has gone to the forest, it can be taken as going to Vrindavan in general in our tradition, which is common practice for vanaprasthas. But interesting enough, which we're not going to expand much more, but each of them divisions have a more divided in 4 more subcategories. Chaitanya Charitamrita 7, Adilila 734 is saying, there are 4 orders of spiritual life, named Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. And each of them, ashrams, have 4 divisions. The division of Brahmacharya is, so Brahmacharya is, 4 divisions of Brahmacharya. Savitriya, Prajapatya, Brahma and Bharat. Now, question to the Grihasthas. 4 divisions of Grihasthas are Varta, professionals, Sanchaya, accumulators, those who gather the money. Then there is Salina, those who do not ask anyone for anything. And then there is Silonchana, those who collect grains from the paddy fields. These are really already coming close to the vanaprasthas, because one of the ways of vanaprasthas maintaining themselves is actually vanaprastha means when you study the vanaprastha as such, you can see also there's a very important aspect how you feed yourself, how you eat, where you get your food. So, for example, sannyasis, they well known by begging, right? They go around and beg. I guess we know already. They just beg for the food. Basically, the main thing is they want to go to the grihastha houses and preach. But because mentality of grihastha is so much into the food and feeding the children and the relatives and eating themselves nicely, so the reason is, I'm coming for food. Please give me something. But vanaprastha is also the same. He is also advised to beg, go around. Only difference is the sannyasi is supposed to beg food after the lunch is finished. Like all the family has done eating. The fire is gone. If you go to the house, there's no smoke anymore. That means everything is cooled down, everybody's eating, finished. Then you can go. Vanaprastha can go during lunchtime. It's a little bit better situation. So if there's somebody eating, you can go to the house and say, please, can I join you? So vanaprastha is a little bit better situation. Sannyasi cannot go. His duty is, because when you're eating, you're not going to talk, you're going to eat. So sannyasi, when the grihastha is finished eating, he goes and he asks for food, and he will not eat together. He will just put in his bag, eat at his place, and while the food is brought, he will do some preaching, some spiritual advices. So that's a quite interesting thing. So we see grihastha, the 4th class of grihastha, is already also, they are not kind of doing the agriculture themselves. We just go around and collect the grains from the paddy fields which are left over after husking. Like this. Okay. Then there is also, which we're not going to dig so much, but there is also divisions of Vanaprastha. Vaikhanasa, Valikyala, Audumbra, and Panepa. And also sannyasis. Sannyasis we know already a little bit. Kutichaka, Bahudaka, Hamsa, and Niskritya, or Parajukacharya. These are interesting divisions which I came across and was interesting to discover. And each of them describe the lifestyle and attitude and so on. So purpose, we'll come across the purpose gradually during a class, which is the purpose of Vanaprastha is such. But actually it is true, from one point of view, it is following your natural cycle of life. Since we can see there is a tendency in every stage of life, which is not like exactly divided by the years or something, but basically it is. You know, when you're born, you just eat and sleep and nothing more. But gradually you become interested, you know, like yesterday we saw small Gita Priya being so excited seeing how somebody's playing Mridanga, you know, so curious, you know, so unusually. So basically in young age you are trying to explore the world and understand it. So basically it is education. Education, it means you are getting accustomed to a situation where you are born. Since we don't know which place we were last lifetime. So when we are born in some society, by Krishna's arrangement it is that in the beginning of life you just try to understand where you are, how things work around you, you know, the society, the money, the food, the laws of nature, sacrifices, austerities, all this stuff, just to learn a bit. So when you learn quite a bit, then you start applying, living that life. That's Grihastha life. You know, you just try and engage yourself in all the things which you are interested in, which you came for in the material world. You just try to grasp as much as possible money, people, social stuff, anything, just wide variety, as much as you accomplish. Gradually, when you become older, you are kind of, not that you're getting bored, but it's nothing fresh anymore. So you kind of start to, cool down. Cool down a little bit. What was the commentary? Not fresh anymore, yeah. It's just stale, you know, you have seen everything. I can say from my life, for example, my brother's life also, he was so excited in young age to travel. And he somehow was financially able to do that, since he was working as an IT programmer in Saudi Arabia and Ministry of Economics. You know, he could afford to travel every month some countries. So his young daughter, when she was 6 months old, she was already in 6 countries, different ones. You know, they just travel around. So, but now he's 40s. What are you, 45 already? He's not traveling anymore. Well, he's staying with his family, but you know, Bali, I've been Bali, I've been Indonesia, I've been India, and I've been Nepal, and I've been he's been like 40 countries already, you know. It's like, where else to go? You know? Okay, I can go to some Brazil city, you know. Machu Picchu I've been in Kilimanjaro, top mountain in Africa. I've been there. I've seen that. Okay, I haven't been in Everest, but I've been there. I've been in this place. I've been going around on a rubber boat 2 weeks on the Ganges from Himalayas. I've been there. You know. The mentality goes like, it's nothing fresh, not interesting anymore. So you just a little bit cool down. So that's vanaprastha, natural thing. Even without any spirituality, you just cool down. Sannyasa, it means you're getting old. Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami said, if you want to understand the world, you go to the person who is 90 years old and ask him how it is. Because at that age, you don't want to change anything. You are kind of seeing everything, and your ambition is not anymore to change anything. So therefore, you have this fresh, not fresh, like neutral look at situations of people, of environment, so on. So this is the sannyasa stage. Of course, the whole thing in a spiritual perspective is a little bit different. Since we understand even the great demons in Srimad Bhagavatam, they follow Varnashrama just for their different reason. Not because pleasing Krishna, because they want to follow, they just want, they know. Because the knowledge coming from scriptures are perfect knowledge explaining how to deal with material nature in the best way possible to get best result. So therefore they follow the Vedas, but their own purpose, for their own ambitions. So that's description. So since we're coming to the demons and so on, there could we read a little bit of a description of material life from Srimad Bhagavatam. The 5th canto, it is mentioned here. In Western countries, due to dissatisfaction of the family members, there is no actually family life. There are many cases of divorce out of dissatisfaction, and children leave the protection of their parents. Especially in age of Kali, family life is being reduced. Everybody is becoming self-centered, egoistic, because of the law of nature. It's interesting, just note, law of nature. We kind of like to be natural, you know? Natural. It's interesting saying in the Western world, if somebody is really, really good in something, he said he's natural. That's his situation. He's perfect in something. So laws of nature. But here it says, you are becoming self-centered, egoistic, because of law of nature. Even if one has sufficient money to maintain a family, the situation is such that no one is happy in family life. Consequently, according to Varnashrama institution, one has to retire from family life in middle age. Panchashordvam vanam vrajet. One should retire voluntarily from family life at the age of 50 and go to Vrindavan forest. This is recommended by Srila Prahlad Maharaj, our dear Prahlad Maharaj. So one of the main instructions is to go to forest. You know the famous quote which Prabhupada says this? Somebody remembers? It's 755, which was quoted actually mentioned in a purport. Prahlad Maharaj says, "O best of asuras," you know the verse. He is addressing his father. "O best of demons, king of demons," he says actually. "As far as I have learned from his spiritual master," who is spiritual master? Narad Muni. Did he meet him? No. He only heard from him while he was in the womb of mother. So therefore, yesterday's ceremony was extremely important since it's 7 months, right? What did you confirm? 7 months, right? So from 7 months, according to scriptures, the child in the womb of mother becomes conscious. He starts to hear. He starts to feel, understand, and even pray. So as I heard my spiritual master, any person who has accepted the temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well of there is no water but only suffering, andha kupam, No, this is the blind well. One blind man followed by other blind man will always definitely fall in a ditch. One should give up this position and go to forest, vana. More certainly, one should go to the Vrindavana, where only Krishna conscious is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, this forest going as such, I think it's quite a prevalent theme in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Who knows the stories, examples of forest going? Dhruva Maharaj, he went to forest because his mother gave him advice. Yes, you want to achieve the kingdom. But that forest is not really vanaprastha. First of all, he's in young age. He was ambitious. He wanted a kingdom bigger than his fathers and grandfathers. He got a kingdom. He got Dhruva Loka. But that forest going was not really vanaprastha, okay? Bharat Maharaj, yes, he went to forest. Why he would like to go to forest?
He knows his kingdom.
Yes, and yeah, very nice example. Something else? Ramachandra. He didn't renounce. Yeah, he went to forest. Yeah, he was. Yeah, that was yes. Yes, very good example. Dhritarashtra. Who is talking? Actually, hold the story. Now we are talking. Who is discussing? Two people who are discussing the whole thing. Bhagavatam, third canto. Vidura and Maitreya. Vidura also went to the forest, right? Dhritarashtra went to forest. Why he went to forest? He was really. Yes, and actually by advice of Vidura, he was still there and he said, you are living like a dog. Like a dog. You're living in the house of your enemy and you're still eating the food of the person who you consider to be enemy all your life. So this is disgusting. just leave the thing, you know. Be a little bit of a character man, you know. He was very educated. Yes, his example was very nice. As an educated man, but he was extremely attached to family. So when the children were killed by the enemies, they still got attached. Not attached to the children anymore. He was attached to the place, to the palace, at least. Okay, I'm not a king, but at least maybe I will stay here. You know? Yeah. Vidura, yeah. What else? There's one nice. Where is that place? Okay. Interesting enough, yeah, it's coming up. I'm not going to run too much, but Devahuti's husband has already left home. This is from the chapter, we are 24, chapter 33 in this canto. And accepted the rounds out of life. And then her son Kapila left home. So it's coming up. Even son left home. So one of the purposes here is interesting enough, commentary also by Prabhupada. Varnashrama is God-given scientific method of fulfilling all life's purposes, material and spiritual, both. We should like to look at everything as a dynamic part of Lord Chaitanya's mercy mission of awakening our dormant love of God. Lord Chaitanya gave up his household life. That's the best example. Well, of course, his Vanaprastha life was very brief. He straight away took sannyas. Probably there was nothing once Vanaprastha. You know. There was no forest. It was just shaving. You know, he left. So this is also interesting for the very, very advanced, spiritually advanced people. They can skip the Vanaprastha and go straight to sannyas. Not so many examples, but there's enough. Lord Chaitanya gave up his household life for that. Srila Prabhupada gave it also. He had a Vanaprastha life. How many years? He started the whole thinking about the age of 50, actually. But it's really happened when he was 54. Then he was Vanaprastha for only 4 years. At 58, he took sannyas. So, but until he started to travel to the West, it took quite a bit of while. So, besides that, we have to understand, same like Brahmacharya life, it is training, right? In the beginning, training is very simple. Go Gurukula at 5 years of age, how much training you get, you know? You just listen, you just sit in yagyas. Somebody who has been in Mayapur, they know. The small kids, they don't do much. They just sit in the yagyas and just listen, you know. And the elder ones who are already been there 5, 7 years, they're already chanting. And those who are very good ones, they are leading the chanting and so on. But there's, of course, all the writing and reading and even martial arts and stuff like that. But still it takes some time. You cannot get the education in a short while. If you want to become a doctor, it's such a long time. Anybody tried to become doctor one day? No? Nobody had a career like this. My sister's daughter, she wanted to become a doctor. It's really, you know, like ladies, they have compassion to the kids, you know. I guess she had some experience. And actually, yes, you learn the 6 years, not 5 years, 6 years in university. Then you have this additional one. And then you have a praxis. So basically like 11, 12 or more years it takes to become a more or less practicing doctor. And then after that, and there's final things until you can have independent your own praxis. Probably it takes like 20 years almost. You know. So if you see doctor who is young age, you're like, amazing, you're a doctor, you know, so fast, you know. It's almost like genius. So, and same thing, the Vanaprastha and Sannyasa also takes some while because, as I mentioned, there's 4 stages, so it means there's gradual progress. So, Vanaprastha thing is quite important, giving up so many things. So, we'll come to that later. Simple question, who takes sannyas? Who takes Vanaprastha? Any? Vanaprastha, all Varnashrama system? Well, if you are Brahmachari, there's no taking Vanaprastha. You just stay Brahmachari. Because Brahmachari life is easy, you serve your spiritual master and you do it for the rest of life. So only Grihastha, who has become engaged or entangled family life, can or should take Vanaprastha. Also, yes, the qualification, or let's say the general system is, you have to be kind of inclined for that. Since it is said, as you mentioned, the Shudras, they don't have inclination to get out of it. The whole mentality is completely absorbed in the family life, which gives a complete material engagement. So if you are so much absorbed in that, why would you leave? Why? It gives me pleasure. You don't have the spiritualization, you have to give it up. You haven't read much scriptures. Why would you do that? Your parents, your grandparents, they were family people. They stayed there all their life. Where the idea comes from, they have to leave. That idea comes from either scriptures or from holy people. So if you don't have contact either with them, why would you do anything like this? So therefore, those who have education in life, and particularly Brahmanas and also Kshatriyas, very, very few Vaishyas maybe, yes. They will have very unusual Vanaprastha life. They will not maybe run the business by themselves. They'll just sit in the backyard somewhere. The son is doing business. And you see the old man sitting somewhere there in a shop, you know. He's doing nothing, but he's watching over. So if daily life is some selling going on, he's peaceful. If there is some important deal, business, like financially important thing has to be done. Maybe he get involved himself. So that would be kind of vanaprastha life for the for the Vaishya. Vaishyas would not go to forests. Kshatriyas, yes. Kshatriyas were very strict, very straight lines. Either I'm this or that, Yes or no. Fighting or not fighting. Like very. And if you are very passionate in your kingdom, then you are very passionate to living as well. So like this. And Brahmana, he's almost vanaprastha already, Even his grihastha life, we can say, yes, he is grihastha, but when we read explanation of vanaprastha, that's how Brahmanas live. Very simple, very engaged in Krishna consciousness. He's already vanaprastha. It's interesting. Also, very much depends on previous training we have here. If you want to become good grihastha, you have to be good brahmachari. The bad brahmachari will be bad grihastha. Right? For Matajis, it's easy. If you have a good mother, you'll be good Mataji. If you have no mother, or for some strange reason there's no training. My mother was not very much trained in a family life. Maybe that's why divorce happened as a Kali Yuga. They had 2 daughters, no sons in the family. So one daughter, probably is in your family, was in the kitchen. Another one was outside of kitchen, in a field with the cows and everything. So my mother was stronger, an older one. And she was out with the cows, with the horses, doing all this stuff, agriculture, stuff like that. So for the training-wise, she didn't learn to cook. So my father was not very happy. She couldn't cook much, So for ladies, it's easier. You stay at home all the time and you get trained from the woman. So brahmachari is somehow, the mentality of man is, by Krishna's will, made such a way they cannot be educated at home. Just impossible. They will not realize. The man's mind is so crooked that he will not become curious why there's food in the fridge. It just comes to the fridge, opens, there's food. Every time. How it goes there, nobody cares. I don't care, it's there. When there is no, then you start thinking, I have to do something. So, therefore, pulling out from the society of the family, actually, man education becomes more efficient, like this. I was thinking to talk about duties a little bit. But yes, as duty as such, there's a nice verse, coming to the duties of vanaprastha. But there's one nice verse in Bhagavad Gita 3:35. It is better to discharge one prescribed duties, even though faulty, than other one's duties perfectly. Every duties are prescribed according to one's psychological condition, that's Prabhupada's purport, under spell of modes of material nature. Coming back to the point that egoistic, self-centered person, so modes of nature. If we are saying, I'm following my nature, that's your varna, that's your condition. You are conditioned as Shudra, you're conditioned as a Vaishya. It's not your spiritual advancement, it's your conditioning. But vanaprastha has the duties. What do you think is these duties? What would be duties of vanaprastha? I don't know. Probably you haven't much studied the whole thing. The elderly person, he knows. Visiting holy places. Yes. There's a whole list which came to my mind. Actually, there's one interesting paper which I also read a few years ago when I was starting the whole vanaprastha mental travel. And Janivas, he's sannyasi now, but when he was an age of 50, 51, 52, he kind of, and that was a while ago, he did not have much of the compiled already material or education. So he went to GBC and said, well, do you have any suggestions? What shall I do? And everybody knew him as a very a scholarly person. He is like a skinny type, Brahmanical, So they said, well, you are known as a writer a little bit, and he was, I think, writing for the Back to Godhead magazine, some articles, so on, even as a Grihastha. So can compile some material about Vanaprastha? I said, oh, okay. And he took some time and then studied Prabhupada books and gave advices from everywhere. And he put paper, some small pamphlet, 80 pages, together about Vanaprastha life. So one of many, many things there is a description of duties and purposes and so on. So one of the before goals, we can say there's a list of interesting points mentioned as a purpose, Vanaprastha. To please Krishna and Guru. It's interesting. For personal enlightenment. So when you go to Vanaprastha, you are actually trying to spend more time in that direction. Since in the Grihastha life, you are too busy. How much hours you can read? If you are lucky, you can come to the, if your mental state is good enough, you can come to the morning class. But usually that time, the kids have to be put to school. You have to feed them, you have to go them. So Srimad Bhagavatam is kind of in the way. It's true. To be productive member of preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya, since you have more time. Out of family life, you have more time of preaching. To develop detachment from material world. Yes, you have your attachments all your life, all your conditions, and then gradually you try to get rid of them. Some acharyas also compare the Vanaprastha life quite strongly with anartha nivriti, getting rid of your anarthas, because in your family life you try to develop your anarthas. You try to expand them as much as possible. And especially wife, she's very, very expert in expanding, because we need this, we need that. And some time ago when we see Grihasthas moving from one house to another, you can see there's a few boxes of anarthas you cannot take with you. Material attachments, You accumulate stuff, then you move around, you have to decide, this I cannot take with me. So Vanaprastha is basically like this. There's many attachments which I cannot, either should not, or I cannot afford anymore. Since you're not supposed to have business anymore, so your financial resources are limited, so you cannot do that. Therefore, many things you have to be detached from material world. Interesting also, it's mentioned to prepare to prepare for sannyas. Prabhupada a few times mentioned this is intermediate stage. Therefore, it's kind of, there's grihastha and there's sannyasas, all those things. So Vanaprastha is in between. It's kind of transitional period. To form a stable ashram for overall benefit of society for future generations. To take 100% shelter of the Lord. That was the purport of Prabhupada. Forest going means not going to animals. Because if you say forest animals, what guna, what material nature has animals? Basically, ignorance. So if you go to the environment with the animals, say you who you are friends, and they'll say you who you are. Who you are associating with, that's what you are. So if you are going for animals in the forest, what in there? Many people watch this Animal Planet and this channel, and Discovery Channel, and you just look at animals for hours and hours. And well, basically they do. They eat, they fly around, they have sex, all these things. Just what do you learn from animals? Of course, you can say there's many scientists. They developed some kind of, super strong thread, armor for the army guys studying spider silk, something like this. Yes, all the airplanes we have now, they are based on the principle of wings. Not maybe flapping wings, but straight wings. But if you want to fly, you have to have wings. If you don't have wings, you fly like a hammer. So you can study things, but Prabhupada said, if you are trying to enjoy your senses, animals are more proficient. They are better. If you want to swim, you may become a dolphin next life. It's such nice swimming. Nobody can swim as fast or nicely as dolphins or anything. Many things. Freedom from shackles of sex life. That's vanaprastha. One of the main things, duties. Forget about sex. Forget about things. Freedom from designations. Prepare oneself for death. It's also true. Bhaktivinoda Purna Swami said, if you are situating yourself, you don't have to take sannyas. It's interesting saying that there is never said that the duty of Brahmacharya is to get married. Don't have to do it. There is no saying in the scriptures that you have to take sannyas. But there is many quotes saying that Grihastha should and must take vanaprastha. That's the thing. So if you are a vanaprastha, then you are already nicely situated to meet your death. Because if you are a grihastha, then grihastha life again. But if you are vanaprastha, already starting to have this surrendering process and stuff like that, you are ready to meet your death much better. Set good example of others. Yeah. Put your knowledge to practice. Next one, very simple. To be happy. And to lead society higher purposes. Yeah, that's many things. Duties also, our duties are very nice. Qualifications. We can talk. I have, out of those 80 pages, I made like 7. Short version of it, so I could talk more, but basically it is why it is, and amazingly enough and contradictory enough, even as we know Kardama Muni, he had a son of Supreme Personality of Godhead in his family. He still left a home. So probably that's the biggest doubt and question why he would do that. Because the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, are instructions of the same personality of Godhead, and they advise to do that. So therefore, it's interesting enough. You have your personality of Godhead at home, you still leave it. Same Lord Chaitanya, his mission to preach. So why don't preach to mother? No, you have to leave home. Take sannyas or vanaprastha or whatever. You have kingdom. You could do the whole thing in your kingdom. No, you have to leave. So the changing environment is very, very important. Since next step of spiritual advancement is always connected with whom you associate. So if you associate with your family, you have been chosen those people, particularly wife or children also, for special purposes. And when you go on contacting with them, the original cause why you did it, it still remains. It's like you change your job. I have changed my jobs quite a bit of times. So if you go to a new company and say, I will be manager, you will be manager. You don't apply for the driver or for the cleaning lady, or something like this. You don't apply for those things. So you say, if I'm going to be driver in your company, cool. You may show your good qualities, and after a few years or longer ones, you may be promoted to the head driver or but in most cases you will stay in that position for a while. So same thing, when you have chosen your environment as a grihastha life with the purpose of acting, expanding, stuff like that, to change attitude, to change your whole mentality, you have to change the people as well, including your family. That's a very, very important point. So therefore, especially man's mentality is such a way you have to do it. From material to spiritual to devotional, that's man's way. Ladies' way is much more easy. They go from material to devotional straight away. It's easy. Because they have this ego thing that is my children, my house. So if you transfer that ego to the Krishna, my Krishna, easy. For man has to be lived one more step. And for ladies who cannot transfer this thing, following the spiritual husband is also must have. So therefore it's also mentioned that the wife should follow a husband who is spiritual. In such a way she will transfer her attachments from material life, from family life, to the Krishna's direction. So, well, many things more to say, but maybe you have some questions or comments.
Also good, thank you first for that. Is it also good for Brahmacharya to not get attached to any place and traveling?
Yes, of course. Traveling as much as possible or as much as needed. Because you don't have to be also attached to the traveling. It's also one thing. Many times we can hear statements that you get attached to detachment. Like Grihastha is getting attached to his things and he's traveling with the 2 big suitcases, and Brahmacharya is traveling with a small bag, He's one attached to the belongings, another one is attached to being detached. It's also his attachment. So, but that attachment can go away definitely for Brahmachari if he puts first the instructions of Acharya or his spiritual master as the first thing. So therefore, in which place to do that? That's a secondary. The primary is what to do and why to do. So you're practicing Krishna consciousness, you're preaching, you're educating. So which place to go educate is not as important. So it comes, the principle of detachment is always attach something better. So if you say, I have to develop detachment from this place. How you do that? By being attached to something better. So place becomes less important if you have some more important mission. If you're a businessman, you don't care who brings you money. You don't care which customer. Is easy customer or wealthy customer, every money comes is money. He's not attached to this guy gave me, he purchased such a thing, he's my friend. No. Next day, next friend comes and he buys something. So same thing, when you have your main thing as instructions or following the mission of Chaitanya, following the mission of Prabhupada, then the place where you do it becomes less important. It's automatically. You cannot detach from the place on its own. it doesn't happen. You have to be attached to something higher, something more deeper. Yeah, you detached from external things by being attached to eternal, more deep things. Salim also had something. Salim, you had also